The European Union introduced its global strategy for European foreign and security policy a year ago in response to the significant changes experienced globally and which has resulted in the need for a stronger security and defense dimension. Does this mean Europe is becoming more militarized? Joining us in the studio to answer this question and reflect on the impact the EU global strategy has had 12 months after its implementation is the Head of Delegation of the European Union EU to Namibia, Jana Hybaskova. Good day viewers and welcome to Unexclusive. Joining me in the studio at this hour is the European Union Ambassador to Namibia, Jana Hybaskova. Ambassador, welcome to the program.
Good evening.
The European Union's global strategy was launched exactly a year ago. What necessitated its launch?
The global changed. We are living in a very different environment. I joined European Union External Action Service, which is a new diplomatic system of the European Union in 2011. We were just freshly born because Europe got the new Treaty on European Union and Treaty on Functioning of the European Union. And I went to a very hot spot called Iraq, and we were practically armless. We Europeans and European diplomats, we were always totally out of politics and out of security and out of defense, operating on what was called classic development. That means coming to the nations and states one by one, assisting with classic things, starting with health, education, environment, economy, rule of law, democracy. And all of a sudden, things started with war in Iraq, with war in Afghanistan, with war in Syria, with changes in Egypt, with the fragile situation in Balkans, and of course with more and more hotspots all around the world, speaking about Mali, northern Nigeria, Niger, Central African Republic, Somalia. So all this global pressure brought Europe to totally new security environment, and this is basically when in 2014-15 Europe started to think about the new dimensions, which is security and defense. I have to be very clear here, it has nothing to do with military. We are not becoming more militarized. When we speak about security and defense, people immediately see big armies. Our armies are no more big. United Kingdom army is not even fitting to Wembley Stadium. That means that it has 100,000 seats and there are 80,000, and this is the most mighty army in Europe. So when I speak about security and defense, I don't mean militarization, on the contrary, but because of the changes in the environment of Europe, because of all the wars and fragilities and crises and humanitarian situations, Europe had to start to think about security and defense. So this is why the European Union global strategy was adopted, because it is bringing, beside development, environment, support to economies, democracy and human rights, as well as security and defense components. And it's not only bringing security and defense component, but it's bringing the tools which are allowing European Union to be much more present in the areas of the crisis, before crisis, around crisis, and hopefully even after crisis. So European Union global strategy, bringing security and defense into European policies, is basically establishing a couple of new institutions. European Union military staff. Again, there is no European army, but European member states can bring their own armies together or their own divisions or battalions, which is, for instance, European Union battle groups. Then, of course, if you operate in fragile environment, you have to bring new intelligence. So European Intelligence Center was built. European Crisis Management was built. European Rapid Response Center is built. And European Civilian Rapid Response Center is built. So there is a couple of new institutions. These are not new big buildings like people think about institutions. It's more ad hoc created group of people who usually communicate by even phones or satellites or cameras and sit in different parts of the world. That means it's not a permanent structure, but it's a restructuring of many of capabilities and capacities of European Union diplomats and member states. So that's one thing, it's security and defense.
Does this mean that the European Union is focusing more on security because of the challenges that you just mentioned now more than ever?
Well, of course, you can discuss this issue. There were years and years when Europe actually had the non-professional conscript armies. When we came to the year 1990, which was such an important year in the changes, in the global changes, I think that in my own country, which used to be Czechoslovakia, we had some 3,500 tanks and we have almost 1 million soldiers. The armies were very big but very ineffective in a way. So since 1990, all the member states of European Union were actually decreasing amounts of the military equipment, amounts of soldiers. More or less, I would say, I think that Greece still have a conscript army. All other armies are professional. That means they got very, very tiny. Our young men are no more going to military unless they do the professional career. So if you speak about expenditures, if you speak about budget, we actually have fallen very much down from what we used to promise, which is 10% of budget going to the defense. So in a way, there was a long period of time when security and defense were not featuring at all. Of course, the things started to change, especially after 9/11, but it was very, very slow. So we were here and there. Now, what is the idea is not to increase amount again of conscripts. It's not to it's to increase amount of military expenditures. This is something what we really need. But to be very clear in this area, it's not that much to buy, I don't know, new planes or these things. It's very much about getting the intelligence equipment, cyber counterterrorism units, and the much more sophisticated things that was usual hardware. So let's say there was the hardware period of the Cold War, then was decrease of everything, and now we are increasing budgetary spendings. We are building new institutions, but they are much more 21st century, up-to-date, sophisticated systems than the classic military hardware like planes or ships or tanks. We don't have, in my country, as I said, we used to have more than 3,000 tanks. I don't know the correct number, but would be some like 20 or 30 tanks. This is not about these things. It's more about computers, about systems, about interceptions, about validating personal data, these type of things.
Right. Can you please tell us about the achievements of the global strategy?
As I said, the achievements of the global strategy at the very moment are focused on the places which are very desperate. The desperate place is Eastern Ukraine, where the military conflict is going on. We try to support whatever we can, and this is this integrated and joint approach. I still have to say, featuring one thing, joint means working with the others, with World Bank, with United Nations, with member states, with whoever is the stakeholder. So what we try is, of course, to support civil societies, to support justice systems, to support the job creation and economy, and at the same time to provide their security systems with the expertise, with the advice, so they would be able to counter the threats which are coming to their territory. So Ukraine is definitely one of them. Then we definitely have to speak about very two tiny countries like Jordan and Lebanon, which are very small and tiny, where the amount of refugees is actually doubling their own population. Imagine that besides 2 million Namibians, you would have here 4 million people coming from Congo at the top of 2 million Namibians. And this is the situation in Lebanon, and this is the situation in Jordan. So we have to do everything to keep these areas working, having education, having water systems, having rule of law, and basically even as well, of course, training their military, but again, training military more in kind of a counter-terrorism things and these things. Besides Jordan, Lebanon, Ukraine, definitely Libya. Libya, if there is still a little bit of safety and security for local population, it's again due to EU action. In Tunisia, it's a civil society very much, but then definitely there is a very big thing which is called G5 Sahel, and this is security sector reform for Sahel. This is a ministerial meetings in Sahel, and this is keeping Sahel as stable as possible, because we have to prevent people from migration. We have to keep people safe, secure, and living the honest lives where they are. So definitely northern Nigeria, Niger, Senegal, and Mali are the countries which are currently receiving enormous support from European Union, practically in all parts of their development.
Is this now in the form of a humanitarian approach?
It's not only humanitarian approach. Look, humanitarian approach according to basically now current practice, and it's more practice of the United Nations, of UNHCR, means Council for Humanitarian Relief, IOM, UNICEF, and these, we count the humanitarian support the day plus 100. So the day the conflict happens plus 100 days. I worked a lot in this area, and this area of these first 100 days is now perfectly structured. There is such a training and capacities. People know exactly that the first thing you do if someone comes, it's you say wounded, non-wounded, wounded, non-wounded. These non-wounded, they are immediately supplied by water, by food, and by so-called non-food items, which is the basic toothbrush, toilet paper, whatever. Then accommodation, tent, then actually some kind of the treatment for psychology of children. So these 100 days, it's more or less quite easy thing actually. It costs money, but it can be done. Then, as I said, and you know in Namibia how we were supporting you in many classic development areas, from education to water and sanitation. But where is the gap, and what needs a lot of expertise is what is between the day 100 and the area of classic development. You have people who live in camps, you have people who are internally displaced persons, you have fragility in the countries where before you stabilize them till the moment that they can go back normally to school, between the humanitarian there is a very long period of a very fragile situation where the society really needs a lot of resilience. We call it stabilization. That means that war ends, but you have, first of all, you have ammunition, you have weaponry, you have fighters, you have wounded people, you have destroyed buildings, and currently this is the horror of the new 21st century, is the explosives. You have explosives everywhere, Boko Haram, Shabab in Somalia. So you have to demine, you have to clean it, you have to bring people back, you have to re-establish institutions, you have to rebuild the houses. And this is what used to be missing actually between humanitarian and development. And this is exactly where the global strategy is concentrating.
Is that now assistance, does it comply to within the countries where it was taking place, or is it because we've also seen many displaced refugees pouring into European countries like Italy and so on, or does it apply to them as well?
So, okay, speaking about migration, migration, first of all, is a very old phenomena. It's nothing new. We know that the amount of people trying to reach out to Europe represents only 9 to 10% of intra-African migration. So Africans are migrating, they always were since millions of years. What makes it different, it's mobile phone and it's computer, because you can communicate to people outside your continent, which makes it a bit more different technically. So what we are trying on migration is to basically, the first thing is to dismantle the smugglers group. There was a very big group of smugglers in northern Nigeria, Niger and Mali. The European Union managed to dismantle this smugglers group.
So it cut down on this group?
It's cut down because these people they do crimes against humanity. They send people on the boats which have no engines to Mediterranean and so the first thing you tackle it as an organized crime, because these people are trafficking human beings. So you should stop it. And this is really one good achievement of this EU global strategy, that we dismantled this Central European related smugglers group. Second thing is that you help states, for instance, exactly like Nigeria, Niger, Mali, Central African Republic, Somalia and others, and as well Gambia was very much, and Senegal, wounded by migration. You help them to control their borders, to make a visa systems, to register people for passports. So, people know that they have to have passports. People have to know that there is a border. People have to know how to cross the border and all these things. So we are actually working with their ministries of Home Affairs, passport controls, custom controls, to establish the normal legal system, which is obvious in many other countries. This is a second thing. Third thing is the management of legal and illegal migration. Okay, you can help stop illegal migration by offering certain quotas for people who want to go study, who want to go for health treatment, who want to join their families, which is called legal migration. Again, it cannot be done by us, it must be done by the states. It must be done by sovereign states of Mali, sovereign state of... But we are helping them to manage. This is the third way. And then, okay, you have those who crossed. I have enormous respect and admiration to people from Gambia who can cross whole Sahara walking across, come to Mediterranean. Of course, part of the problem is lack of stability in Libya, because Libya is not able to control its own borders and therefore it's used as a hub. But I will tell you one single number which brings a goosebumps to. Since the January 2015, European Union assisted in saving lives, that means physically taking people from Mediterranean, for 570,000 people. 570,000 people.
Half a million.
Half a million people were drowning in Mediterranean, and we saved their lives and supported them. This is massive. This is a massive number. And then, of course, what to do with these people? It's not 5,000, 50,000, 15,000. It's an enormous amount of people. So when all these troubles, especially because of the situation in Libya, started, these people were pouring to Italy, to Lampedusa, to Spain. Then, of course, because of Turkish route to Greece. I do not want to say we stopped it, but first of all, the number of refugees decreased substantially because we are more and more able to provide the assistance in humanitarian camps closer to the conflicts. Right. Second thing is that we get many more people who immediately register them and who fill the documents, who identify them, and then who basically are able better to say, okay, you are really a refugee, you really come from the town which was totally destroyed, you of course have a full right for asylum, and for you it's a bit more economic problem, please go back, we will try to do job creation. For instance, in northern Nigeria, we built the whole livestock production of northern Nigeria in last 2 years, so to support farmers to stay where they are. All right, Ambassador, I'm going to have to stop it. Let's move on to Namibia. What impact will the global strategy have on Namibia? Well, first of all, I must express my gratitude to government of Namibia for two things. Relations with the European Union and member states currently are excellent. We will have a political dialogue during the next winter time, and in this political dialogue we basically will be meeting all different representatives of your government, which is kind of a proof that Namibia is really interested and supports cooperation with the European Union. We have a big support to education, we have a big support to Ministry of Agriculture, livestock support for NCAs and so forth. So politically the relations are, I would say, excellent. But part of it, it's a very interesting activity which is called the support to African Peace Facility. African Peace Facility is African Peace Facility. It was financed all by European Union. It belongs to African Union Commission, and it's actually chaired by the Commissioner of the African Union. But there was a decision of member states of African Union that every year they will support this African Peace Facility by 0.2% of the national budget. And I must say that Namibia took the decision, and already even for 2017. That means that Namibia is somehow meeting Europe in fostering and strengthening stability of Africa, and therefore Namibia is actually a country which fully supports EU global strategy. So my thanks to the government of Namibia.
On the topic of Britain exiting the European Union, how does the global strategy relate to Brexit?
That's a very good question, thank you, because I do not want to speak about Brexit at all, because at the very moment I'm still representative of 28 member states. So I do represent United Kingdom as I do represent the other 27 member states, so I can hardly make any distinction between the two. But as we spoke about this joint approach and integrated approach, in this security and defense part of the global strategy, there is a very new and very strong link between European Union and NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which is a big defense pact in the north. And NATO is a crucial part for European defense and security. And this is where exactly we are very happy that the British Prime Minister makes very clear that UK is leaving European Union, but it's not leaving Europe, which means that in NATO, UK stays as a very important contributor for the security of all members of NATO in Article 5. That means inside or outside Article 5, outside like in Afghanistan. So we will be working with UK, and we are working daily, not only in NATO mainly, but because the NATO and European Union are now working exactly in these areas like rapid response, European Intelligence Center, EU Stratcom, and other areas. This is where we maintain a full every minute cooperation with United Kingdom. And I have not spoken about the very important area of European global strategy, which is counterterrorism. Counterterrorism represents a very important part. In many of European Union embassies globally, we have now counterterrorism experts. Many of them are exactly British nationals working on supporting local counterterrorism structures and keeping the counterterrorism cooperation. So definitely issues like counterterrorism, like management of migration, resilience, rapid response, EU battle groups. And EU battle groups might be a bit different, but cooperation with NATO, this all will stay. That this is not and will not be affected by Brexit, on the contrary.
Tell us about the role that the European Union plays, now that you speak of terrorism, in the aftermath. What role does it play in comes to response?
Thank you. Again, very good question. I have told you at the beginning that I came from Iraq, and actually it was one of my personal project was to build the thing which is called Counterterrorism Fusion Center Iraq. And in countries which emerge from wars, especially in countries which still have divisions in society, be it religious, ethnic, or clan or tribal divisions, of course, there is always a power struggle. Ministry of this is not communicating with Ministry of that, and you have a defense, and you have a home affairs, and then you have a special forces, and then you have a police, and then you have all these things. And what is needed is to create a conducive environment, be it legal, be it governmental decisions, to make all these people to work together and cooperate. And I've been there myself, and I'm very proud, because what we managed in this very deeply divided country like Iraq is to bring from policemen, from healthcare system, from military, from home affairs, from intelligence. They all sit and work together. There is a counterterrorism center, and all these ministries, all these people come and share information, come and share analysis. This is yet another very important word in the EU global strategy, is shared analysis. Because when you have to work together and each one has the different analysis, that means each one comes with the different understanding of situation. How can you cooperate? So shared analysis. And this is a very important part for counterterrorism, is shared analysis. Once you establish the exchange of information, once you have the shared analysis, then the next step you do, you try to create the external environment. That means, okay, if Iraqis now in this center, they know that Mr. XY is most probably going to Europe to do something bad there, then they have a link, they have a way how to inform European counterparts. We've got this information, and this is a sensitive one, please follow this and that and do this and that. I can only speak about my own country, which is Czech Republic, which is a country where never ever happened any terrorist attack. Our security service exchanges daily 3,800 to 4,000 information units on counterterrorism, and we have never had any attacks. So, you know, this is a massive operation. It's not like calling, it's sending thousands and thousands of information messages on this and this and this and this. So once you have the functioning counterterrorism cooperation with countries like Iraq, like Iran, like Libya, you are much better equipped not only to protect yourself, but the same we do. There is this phenomena of foreign fighters, people who are joining Islamic State. So we are again able to send the information back. Okay, we have the information that these and these and these people are going there doing this. And okay, relations with Turkey are now, I would say, diplomatically complex, but for instance, this cooperation goes 24/7. So there are certain areas which, okay, politicians might have big statements, but we live in functioning society, so these things function well, thanks God.
Any other last remarks from your side, Your Excellency?
Well, I only can first of all express my really again gratitude to Namibian government, especially for the NDP5, because in the new NDP5, and I'm not speaking about the Harambee, but I'm speaking about NDP5, peace features prominently, and I see Namibian contribution to African peace in many ways, and this is exactly where we meet together. So thanks God, this part is in National Development Program 5.1.2. Namibia famous female battalion is excellent exercise. Namibia contribution to African Peace Facility is yet another very good example. So we see Namibia supporting stability and security of Africa, and it's a very significant contribution, and I just would like to thank Namibian government for doing it.
Here in Namibia, we see an increase in defense spending every single year, which is the exact opposite of what's taking place in Europe. Can you tell us why? I
think that Namibia was born without the defense and security forces in 1990, so in the new changing global environment, it's a full sovereign right of Namibia. Of course, it's a matter how you spend it, and it's a matter of democratic control of military spendings. This is why we, in European Union, every member state has a defense committee of the parliament, and it's a defense committee who looks and asks, is this a necessary spending? Is this a priority spending? Is this a proper spending? And we are supporting the public finance management of Namibia, and I strongly believe that the basically public account control function of Namibian Parliament will be strengthened. We are going to offer technical assistance to Namibian Parliament exactly for being able to deliver democratic control of armed forces and security apparatus. This is called the democracy. And this is where every country has a lot of things. You see in the United States how difficult it is. So no one is perfect in this area. So we are here to help to strengthen the capacity of Namibian Parliament to be much better functioning on controlling all public finance management, including the defense expenditures.
Ambassador, let me thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And that is all we have for you. Don't forget to share your views on the topic with us on our social media pages or by texting them to the number 555. SMS costs $1 Namibian. From me, Joseph Shifeni, thanks for watching and see you soon.